What is up everyone, welcome back to a brand new video on Lexalexus. Today I am predicting match day 10 for the Premier League. Normally I do Premier League predictions on the Friday, but bearing in mind we've still got Championship midweek predictions to digest, I'm actually going to predict the Premier League games just a day earlier and on Friday instead. So tomorrow's video will be me predicting the Championship games. So in terms of the prediction leagues, both the Premier League and the Championship leagues have not quite been up to date yet, but you've got to keep your eyes on the community tab. They will be posted ASAP. So just bear in mind that I'm just trying to calculate all those scores. We're trying to juggle things as well. So apologies that it's not there straight away, but I promise you it will be there. It is a current burden on my shoulders, which I will achieve. But in the meantime, let's start predicting the Premier League games. So before we actually start off, please do give the video a like. It does tremendously help the channel if you've not done so. Please do hit the subscribe button if you've not done so as either. It really does help the growth of this channel as we're trying to push to 1,500 subscribers. Trying to get to 2,000 subscribers as well, which will be a brilliant achievement for this channel. And please also share the channel too. All of that helps as well. But without any further ado, let's start predicting match day 10 for the Premier League. So the first game to predict is Bournemouth versus Leicester. Now, I look at this game at the start of the season potentially being a really one-sided game, but honestly now, I think this game's going to be more intriguing now we've seen Leicester beat Nottingham Forest by 4-0 and looking back at their best. It's going to be interesting now to see if the players are keen to back Brendan Rodgers and give them another high performance. And Bournemouth would be a team which I think they could get a result with, but Gary O'Neill has made Bournemouth a bit more of a defensive team, which I think is what they were really severely lacking with Scott Parker. They were lacking that defensive discipline and were being way too open. And Bournemouth, whilst they've not scored as many goals since the departure of Scott Parker, they have been able to pick up more points and actually going through a little bit of an unbeaten run at the moment. Bournemouth actually, they are right up there in 13th place of the table and are unbeaten in their last 4 matches with 3 draws and a win sandwiched between that. So Bournemouth definitely got to be given credit for the fact that they're being unbeaten. But for me, what that Leicester team showed is exactly what we were expecting to see Leicester just play like at the start of the season. They've just had a really bad stage of a season of having a lull of confidence. But I think now having that win against Nottingham Forest, I think we'll now start seeing Leicester trying to improve their form. They have got a really good set of games coming up now, and they can definitely improve their momentum before the World Cup. As a prediction, I'm going to edge Leicester on the basis of how well they performed in their last game. I'm going to go for a 2-1 away victory to Leicester, but I don't think it'll be easy. I think Bournemouth will actually make it very tricky for them. So I'm going to go 2-1 Leicester. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Chelsea versus Wolves. Now, this game is always an awful game for Chelsea. I hate playing against Wolves. They are an awful team to try and get something out of. And what's even more unpredictable about Wolves this year is that this is their first game, of course it has to be, without their manager Bruno Lage. And normally what we see in terms of teams, you know, having their first game, you know, without their manager, they tend to get a really positive result and they're right up for it. Chelsea, we're still waiting for back-to-back wins with Potter in the Premier League. He picked up his first Premier League win as Chelsea manager with that 2-1 victory over Crystal Palace, and his first Champions League win recently with a 3-0 victory over AC Milan. And I would say I think Wolves are going to be 10 times better defensively than what AC Milan showed. So I think this is going to be a tougher game on us on paper. And as a prediction, I would not be surprised if it ends 0-0. Honestly, Wolves being so defensive and Chelsea having their issues, you know, breaking teams down, it wouldn't surprise me if it ends 0-0. Next game to predict is Manchester City going up against Southampton. Now, this game is always intriguing as well. Manchester City are still being the challengers. They're chasing down Arsenal. They are only 1 point behind them. And with Arsenal playing against Liverpool this weekend, it could potentially be a good opportunity for Manchester City to see if they can gain some ground over them. And Southampton this season, whilst they started all right, they've really struggled since, and they've lost 4 games in their last 5 matches. So Southampton's form is definitely deteriorating a little bit, and I don't see it improving anytime soon. Manchester City managed to continue their great form, beating their neighbours Manchester United by 6-3. and beating Copenhagen in the Champions League by 5-0. They've got plenty of goals within them despite having some key players injured for the likes of having Rodri unavailable. They still are able to perform to that level, which is just incredible, really. And I think Manchester City will continue it. I'm going to go for a 3-1 victory to Manchester City. I think it'll be a relatively comfortable game for them. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Newcastle versus Brentford. Newcastle have now, I think, in my opinion, started to really improve their performances now. And they're now starting to get a win. I mean, they got their first win in their last 7 games when they smashed Fulham by 4-1. Yes, the red card definitely helped them with that result. But because they've only lost 1 game so far this season, which was against Liverpool of all teams, you know, I don't think that's anything to be, disgraced about for Newcastle there. They are currently 7th place. And honestly, if they stay unbeaten for a good amount of time, and if they have that, intimidating atmosphere whenever you play against Newcastle, it's going to be really tough to try and break them down and beat them. And honestly, I think Brentford have been a bit inconsistent. They would pop up with a good performance here and there. In their latest performance, they managed to draw a little bit of a blank against Bournemouth, so that ended as a 0-0 draw. Probably arguably a little bit lucky with decisions not going against them there. As a prediction, I'm going to go actually for a Newcastle win. I'm going to go for back-to-back wins for Newcastle with a 2-1 home victory. I think they're now starting to find their groove within the season. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Brighton Spurs. Now, I think Brighton, I've now learned, you literally cannot underestimate them. I predicted De Zerbi to really struggle at Brighton with his first game against Liverpool. And lo and behold, he got a 3-3 draw out of them. And they got to a point where Brighton were 2-0 up at one stage, and they probably will be disappointed they didn't pick up all 3 points, actually. But there's a Spurs side where Spurs managed to lose their first game in the Premier League season, losing to their neighbours Arsenal in the North London derby. They also drew a blank in the Champions League as well, drawing 0-0 to Frankfurt as well. So Spurs at the moment are looking like a very defence-minded team, which doesn't surprise me considering with the manager they got in Antonio Conte. Brighton, however, will definitely play out, but it could be a victim of their own downfall considering the way Spurs play. I either see Spurs scoring very early and just completely attacking Brighton, or Brighton will go toe-for-toe and they'll actually get a result. I'm going to go for a bit of an in-between of that, and I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think both teams will have really good moments. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. The next game to predict is Crystal Palace versus Leeds United. This should be a really intriguing matchup against 2 teams that I think they definitely are thinking that they could have started just that tiny little bit better there. Crystal Palace, I felt, were actually quite unlucky not to get at least a draw against Chelsea. I've got to be honest, as a Chelsea fan, I think it was one of those times where Chelsea just produced a moment of magic to literally dig us out of trouble, and we could have argued that we should have even had our first goal had Thiago Silva not stayed onto the pitch for a moment which would be classified as a red card offence most times. So yeah, pretty unlucky for Crystal Palace there. They face a Leeds side where they've been a bit frustrating for their own part. They've not managed to win in their last 4 matches, and that was after they started the season pretty well, since their 3-0 win over Chelsea. They've not been able to win since then. So they do need to try and resolve something in that front there. They've managed to pick up a decent amount of draws, and in fact Leeds have only lost 2 games so far this season. One of them coming against Brighton and the other coming in that dramatic game against Brentford. I do think both teams are going to draw a blank, and I'm going to say a 1-1 draw. The reason being is that I think Palace might actually look the better team on the ball, but I think Leeds have just got a way of playing that makes them stay within the game. And personally, I think both will be able to cancel each other out. I think both are in a similar quality for sure. And I just don't have any confidence that any of them are going to get the job done. So I'll go for a 1-1 draw, therefore. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. Next game to predict is West Ham versus Fulham. So we have got another London derby this weekend. West Ham managed to do really, really well, getting a 2-0 win over Wolves, although maybe winning against Wolves for most teams, excluding Chelsea, has been proven not to be too much of a difficult task, unfortunately, for them this season. It resulted in Bruno Lage leaving Wolves, but that win for West Ham came at a very crucial time. It's only West Ham's second win of the season, with their only other win coming in that away game against Aston Villa. It was their first win they actually had at London Stadium as well. But this time they faced against a Fulham side where Fulham, unfortunately for them quite recently, they've actually done relatively well not to lose too many games. But in their last 5 games, they have lost 3 of them. You know, including that 4-1 defeat against Newcastle, where they did have a red card decision against Chalobah, which really spoiled things. And to the other 2 defeats were really tough away games against both North London clubs Spurs and Arsenal. So I definitely think with their track record against the London clubs so far this season, it would suggest that West Ham might get something here. And I'm going to say that West Ham will get back-to-back wins. I think the depth just definitely helps with West Ham here. Maybe Fulham will give them a bit of threat, but I think West Ham will be able to have enough to go over the line. I'm going to go for a 2-1 home victory to the Hammers, but I think it'll be very, very close. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Now to a game I'm really excited to predict. Arsenal and Liverpool could be a really crucial game in this first half of the Premier League season. Arsenal still leaders. And I tell you what, to have 7 wins out of 8 is remarkable consistency. I've got to give them a lot of credit for that. They've only lost 1 game, which was that game against Manchester United. They're at home at the Emirates, and they've had a complete perfect record at the Emirates so far this season. They face a Liverpool team where they are facing just a tiny dilemma. I mean, to be fair, they've only lost 1 game so far this season, which was against Manchester United, of course. So, in fact, similarly to Arsenal, both teams have only lost 1 game, and both was against Manchester United at Old Trafford. But when they play against each other, you know, Liverpool have actually not won in their last 2 games in the Premier League, drawing to Everton and, of course, drawing to Brighton. They did manage to get a good win against Rangers in the Champions League, but is that really going to count towards anything when they're going to face a really tough Arsenal team where they're just full of confidence right now? Defensively, they've improved. I think the signing of Gabriel Jesus has definitely given them a new lease of life in their attack. Gosh, it's a tough one to call. And you know what? Because of Arsenal's 100% home record, I'm going to stretch it here. But I think it's going to be either a really cracking game or a really crappy game. So I can't really make my mind up for which one it's going to be. I'm going to go for the prior and say it's going to be a really good game. And I'm going to go for a 3-2 Arsenal win. I want to be really tight and intense. And I think Arsenal might get the job done here. So can't believe it because I don't really show much confidence in Arsenal recent seasons. But I'm actually going to say they will beat Liverpool by 3-2. Let me know what you think about in the comments down below. Next game to predict is Everton versus Manchester United. It's going to be very interesting to see Manchester United going to recover from that 6-3 demolition against their neighbours in Manchester City. Everton have now started to really improve this season, actually. They've won 2 games, drawn 4 and lost 2. And in fact, Everton have not lost in their last 5 games. They've done really well, Everton, actually, to stay unbeaten for that period of time. And what they were really doing, which is something I was calling out on, they were drawing games, but they were not getting that edge to get wins. But lo and behold, in their last 2 games, 1-0 win against West Ham, and of course that 2-1 comeback win over Southampton. And now Everton look a lot safer on 10 points, 11th place, and a 4-point gap from 18th place Wolves. And that is exactly what they need to do. But they cannot take their foot off the pedal now. So mentality is going to be very important. Manchester United, typically away from home, they've not really blown many teams away. I mean, I think of Southampton when they narrowly beat them away from home by 1-0. So on the whole, Manchester United away from home have not been spectacular. You know, they did exactly the same thing actually against Leicester as well. So I actually didn't attend this because I write my scores before I predicted, but actually now looking at the stats, maybe this prediction is not a bad shout, and I've gone for a 1-0 away victory to Manchester United. I think it'll be quite similar again. I think Everton may potentially prove me wrong. So if there's any team that I think will prove me wrong and score, I think it's going to be Everton, and it'll be like a 1-1 or even them winning 2-1. But for me, I'm actually going to say Manchester United will keep a clean sheet, which is strange for me to say considering they conceded 6 in the last game. But you know, things can change in football within a very short period of time. And I'm going to say Manchester United will get an away win. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Last game to predict, Forest versus Aston Villa. If that last game against Leicester was an El Sacchio, this is El Sacchio 2.0. So Steve Cooper, by the looks of things, has been given more time. And I was going to do a video actually about, you know, the managers being sacked for the Premier League and the Championship and comparing the amount of sackings at this time per season. But considering that Steve Cooper looks like he is going to stay on for quite a fair bit, maybe it's not the right time yet to do that sort of video at the moment. But he's definitely running out of patience. Marianakis is definitely thinking about the options that he's got. Rafa Benitez being an option that he could go for actually. Lopetegui, who's just been sacked by Sevilla tonight by losing 4-1 to Dortmund, could maybe be another one as well. Maybe they can try and outbattle Wolves to try and get in him, you know, a little bit similar to how they managed to get Gibbs White over Wolves. So could Nottingham Forest get one over Wolves again? But for me, that's just me hypothesizing. It sounds like to me that they will stick with Cooper for at least in this game here. And Aston Villa, I think have performed better than what their position suggests, and I think that's part of the issue. See, Aston Villa are in or around 14th place with only 8 points collected this season, and I think they should really be at least in around the top 10. You know, for them to be 14th and only 2 points above the relegation zone, you know, a defeat for them and potentially Wolves maybe beating Chelsea, it'll mean Wolves go above Aston Villa, and that'll be very, very dangerous times for them there. As a prediction, I'm actually going to go for an entertaining 2-2 draw. I think Nottingham Forest can actually score plenty of goals at home. They've just got a really bad defence all round, whether it's home or away. So I think because of that, we'll see a flurry of goals. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw in this game. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. So guys, to contribute to the prediction league, of course, make sure you comment your predictions for these 10 Premier League games in the comments down below as well. I'll heart and make sure I look at every single comment and prediction. But apart from that, that is all I have to say about this today, guys. If you guys enjoyed what you saw, please give the video a like. It does tremendously help the channel. Please do hit that subscribe button if you've not done so. It does really help the channel. And please also share the channel too. That helps as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary for joining in this video. As always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.